Welcome to the Tao of Ideas, the Hong Kong Experience, the only podcast where hiking boots meet hot takes. Join the two bankers turned wannabe podcasters, Saul and Daniele, going through their mid-level crisis as they wander Hong Kong's wild trails, asking life's big questions like, what Marie Kondo has to do with your finances? How is Marcus Aurelius influencing your data decisions? And what tramp stamp would you get? From mountaintop musings to urban interviews with local professionals, this is your dose of deep thoughts, life hacks, bad jokes, and sweaty enlightenment. Today on the Hikecast, Daniele and Saul set out to discuss change and uncertainty while wandering the mystical lands of Chin Mon Reservoir. But fate had other plans. Somewhere between existential dread and slippery trails, they veer into pickup artist theory, questionable life advice, and unsolicited impersonations of alpha chimpanzees, also featuring one suspiciously judgmental monkey.
So we are here at Chin Mon Reservoir.
Correct.
And which is in Tsuen Wan,
Yeah.
Tsuen Wan, which is at the end of the red line from Central. It's very cool today. It's been raining for a couple of days, but this morning seems like it's holding up. And today we're going to talk about change.
Yeah.
And everything connected to change.
Can be scary, no?
Oh my God, tell me about it. So because I'm autistic, I love my routines. I love my I need to have a sort of kind of control on what I do, what is going to happen, and so on. So I don't deal with change well at all. So I'm absolutely horrible.
You mean big change or even like tiniest of things? So if you have a plan for the day and then something goes differently and you need to change that plan.
So I guess it changes a bit when I started to take a medication for OCD.
Mm-hmm.
Started to wane off a little bit, but I remember when I was like younger, maybe when I was like, but even in my 20s, if I say, okay, today I'm planning to go, I don't know, hiking,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pouring down rain, I'm like, doesn't matter, I will go. Or if I decided in the morning I'm gonna eat steak today, and for some reason I forgot to buy it,
Mm-hmm.
even if I already have the pan hot with the butter, I stop everything and go and buy steak. Now is a bit more manageable, but still I'm in that way that I don't deal well with uncertainties. How about yourself?
For me, I just get frustrated, I'd say. So in the examples that you've given, if I'm planning to go hiking and it starts to rain, then I don't go hiking, but I feel that my plan's been disrupted and then I don't know what to do with myself. And nothing else that I do that day brings me joy because that is different to what I wanted and planned to do.
That makes sense. Because again, it's impossible to talk about change without talking about uncertainty.
Mm.
And I guess as humans, that's what we deal with every day. It's all about.
True.
We don't know the future. Every day is uncertain things are going to happen, even though you might plan it as good as you can. So, but it's funny that humans don't deal well with change. I would have thought that it was like a genetically, development where after 100,000 years of dealing with change, people would be better at that.
But if you think about the evolution and what the lives were like for people for the majority of human existence, nothing has changed. Things have always been the same.
Has it though?
Right? Like if you look at the progress of the society that we have right now versus, say, even a few thousand years ago, things used to be much more calmer. Everyone was a farmer and everyone just lived by the cycles of nature, and you plant things at a certain part of the year and then you reap the rewards, the fruits another part of the year, and you just just go in cycles again and again and again, and nothing changes.
Yeah, but okay. So what you're saying is that history rhymes, but does not repeat. I think Mark Twain said that.
That
So
wasn't what I was
effectively,
saying, but it's a good saying. So please elaborate.
It's like you have certain kind of events or situation or cycles that you know they're going to happen regardless, like day and night.
Yeah.
Some days gonna rain. Like there are some things that are, you know, as if you think about statistically, they're gonna definitely, there is a good likelihood of happening.
Yeah, they're
And
very predictable.
correct, and then you can build your life around it. So is that what you're saying, that then sort of like that's a big changes that, however, because we have a sort of like they're so common that we know how to deal with them, and instead there are the small changes that are the ones that we struggle with because they're much less common. Think like it's like a black swan kind of situation.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that. If you think about, so say you were a farmer thousands of years ago, then you're used to the weather cycles and the patterns of the seasons, and you kind of go out and you know exactly what you're going to do. One day you're going to plant things, another day you're going to tend to them or tend to animals. It's quite predictable. But now in the information age, when you go to work every day, there are so many jobs where you come in the morning, you have no idea what kind of problems are going to pop up and what you're going to have to deal with. And that creates a lot of stress and anxiety because you have no clarity of what you're going to have to deal with. So I think that's probably one of the things that causes people to be to worry about that uncertainty. So it's not necessarily change. That's more like anything can happen, and most likely it will.
Have you ever changed something about yourself? Like you set out to say, I don't like this about my personality or my life, and I say like I want to change it.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, I think that's part of the personal development, I'd say. That's the whole point of, like, if you want to improve yourself, then you have to change something about yourself. So, for example, I used to be very quiet, so I forced myself to be more out there, talk to people more. Doing these podcasts encourages me to be a little bit more vocal. And I think I've changed quite a lot throughout the years, from, say, middle school, where I would just sit quiet in the corner, don't talk to anybody, apart from like one or two friends that I was really close to just basically having the ability to have conversation with most people. Josan. Yeah, and yeah, there's morning. There's many more things in terms of like my physical condition. You know, started going to the gym and then running and doing all sorts of sports to try and change that, because I wasn't necessarily happy with how my physical abilities were. So yeah, I'd say every single personal development goal is about changing yourself, and that's why it's hard, because you literally have to discard who you think you are or how you operate, how you think, and create a new version of yourself.
And do you have maybe some advice that you found useful when you wanted to change something, I guess, big or small?
Make a plan and commit to it. And
Okay.
Make a plan and commit to it, and also allocate some time to do it. There's the biggest obstacle, at least based on my experience, is wanting to change and knowing what you're going to change, but not taking action. And we often don't take action because we haven't allocated time for it. Say if you want to become much fitter, I need to exercise. In order to exercise, I need to find some time to exercise. If I don't change my routine, then even if I do it once or twice, I will just fall back into the old ways of doing the same things like I did before.
Yeah, you're making it sound relatively easy, but I think
No, it's not.
probably no. I guess you and yourself. I think you do. You need to have a lot of grit. You need to have a lot of perseverance. So to like you need to have that drive that makes you keep on going. No?
I think grit and perseverance are very good qualities, but that's a hard way of doing it. That's like you trying to go against the flow of nature or against the flow of your habits. What I try to do to make it easier is, for example, the newsletter that I'm writing, that I publish every week. I have allocated specific time to write it. So then it becomes like a natural process of my daily schedule. So every time I go into the office, during lunch, I go to a coffee shop, I sit down and I write one newsletter.
That's interesting.
And then on the weekend, I edit. If I did not allocate that time and I had to just randomly, sporadically find some time to write it, I would not be able to persevere because so many other things are falling into.
And then what if like a day is disrupted? Like you were supposed to go and write a newsletter, but you cannot because of whatever reason. Like because urgent thing at work, you got like a medical emergency, whatever. Like
Josan?
Josan.
Morning.
Morning. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think that's a very good question because I've just written about it in my latest newsletter, which will come out in about 3 months' time. And
Really?
let me tell you why.
Yes, you're so advanced. Like you.
Yes.
It's really like 3 months in advance. I post my thing like literally 2 days before. I mean, I planned them, but 48 hours is like, I did a good job.
Yeah. So for me, I anticipated situations, not exact precise situations, but anticipated times when I know that something will happen and I will not be able to write it. And if I'm not able to write it, I'm not able to publish it. And if I miss a week, for example, I'll feel very guilty about not sticking to my schedule. So I thought about all of that. So my commitment is to try to write 2 newsletters every week, but I only publish 1 newsletter every week.
And what do you do with the other one?
So it just goes in a backlog. So I keep writing and writing and writing, and I keep saving them as drafts and then scheduling it to be published on a specific day. But I have such a big backlog now. I started at the beginning of the year, and now I have such a big backlog that I can go, on multiple holidays and not worry about how to write it because I know that there's 20 of them waiting to be published.
So basically, dealing with change, there is a great degree of
wave to the drone
preparation.
Yes. So it's setting up a new habit, Josan, that enables you to achieve the thing that you want to achieve. And also setting it up in a way that accounts for all the different obstacles that will eventually come your way. Because they will come your way with Shopka.
Oh, for sure. That is very interesting. By the way, for those, I don't know whether you can see that, but we often say Josan, and it's because we're meeting people, and Josan means good morning in Cantonese. And in Chinese, I think it is Zhao Shang, which is like same characters pronounced differently. But it is an abbreviation. It's like saying morning rather than good morning.
Yeah, I never knew the exact kind of meaning because, say, ni hao.
Yes.
It means you good, right? In terms of
Yes,
the
correct. Yeah.
translating each individual character.
It's a bit like you're right.
Yeah.
It's a very cool way. Zhao San is morning.
I don't know.
Literally,
Morning.
Zhao means early, and Shang means the up.
Ah, okay.
So the early up,
Early up.
which is different from the early down, which is the afternoon.
Well,
So not the early, no,
hello,
of course,
all
not the early down. It's just the down.
hello to
yeah,
all the early uppers.
I guess so.
So I know
it
you
is.
speak Chinese, but do you speak any Cantonese?
No, I don't. I have tried to, but because again, talking about change. So Chinese is probably so. As I learned Chinese at university, I lived in China. I studied in China as well in months and months university at different locations over there. But when then in 2018 I went back to Shanghai to work for HSBC, I actually basically I had a mental block about speaking Chinese
How come?
because first of all I could make myself understood in English everywhere and to everyone, in the office to everyone, and second, sort of like I knew my Chinese was not that fluent anymore, was very rusty. So sort of like it was sort of like the easy way, sort of like just
Yeah.
not speaking, just speak English, and just go with the flow.
Jason,
And if people speak Chinese, then I sort of like I could understand more or less what they were talking about. But yeah, so I guess sometimes again this we're talking about change, but effectively sometimes I feel like even though I would like to change, sort of like have a mental block to change.
yeah.
And sometimes I feel like it's a mental block because sort of like maybe it's a fear of embarrassment, it's obviously a fear of something, fear of failing, which I think is why people struggle with change. Like, what if you change and you fail? Or what if you fail to change? And this is sort of like is inside ourselves.
I think it's a universal fear. I think everybody has it.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that then, early this year, I started to go to Chinese classes again because I was embarrassed when I went to Shenzhen that I could not speak properly.
Okay.
And I said, I know these words, I know these things, I know what they're saying. Like I heard that word, but in my mind I could not connect it to what it meant. And I was like, it was so annoying. It's like seeing a color and you say like another color, but you don't know the word for it. So I was like, so again, embarrassment can also lead to change because you're so embarrassed.
Yeah.
You have to do something about it.
So you needed a specific catalyst to
Yeah.
force that change.
Yeah. And yeah, it's
That's
it's
good.
interesting. But so to like you fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, you can stop change, but embarrassment and fear itself can bring about change.
True. I think people, they react in
Josan.
Josan, in two different ways. So if you fear the embarrassment, either you will try to tackle it or you will retreat and won't try it.
Yeah,
So you just continue speaking English and not even attempt it because you're too embarrassed. But in your case, kind of went through both situations. So initially you were embarrassed, you didn't try to speak. And then after that, you went to do some classes to improve your Chinese. So then you can go and have a conversation.
exactly. And then I went back to Shenzhen with my colleagues, and because one of my colleagues is single, so I was feeding him all of the pickup lines that you can use in Chinese. But
do they teach those in the Chinese classes?
well, Google exists, so I
Right.
just Googled them, but I still remember the best. This is by far the best pickup line ever.
All right, go for it.
That I read. So it was on a very small book that I bought when I was like 19, first year at university. I was talking about like Chinese, traveling in China, and the classic like, hello, where is the library, and so on. And there was
Back
like
in
a
those days when people still went to libraries.
Exactly. and there was a list like of pickup lines, and one of them was, "You look like my cousin."
What is that? How is that even a good thing?
And it stuck with me because it's like it's such a good and stupid and silly pickup lines. Because
Why would you?
first of all,
Why would you like your cousin?
but wait a second, you're in
Okay.
China and you are like you look completely different. So it's unlikely that you look like my cousin.
Okay.
Second,
So
if you do look like my cousin, does it mean that I have a crush on my cousin and I'm
yeah, that's what I
now-
was asking.
yeah? And it's like so odd.
So it's good because it's odd, because it's unusual.
Well, it never worked
You
for
want
me.
to go down there? Want to explore?
Yeah, let's go down there. Yeah. So
Okay, don't fall off the cliff. Maybe let's go this way.
yeah. So technically, it never worked for me because I honestly never used it.
Yeah.
But I keep on feeding it to other people because I think people should use it, should own this.
All right,
You
how-
look
how
like
do
my
you-
cousin.
How do you say it in Chinese?
你像我的小表妹，
Okay, I
你
won't be
像我
able
的
to
小
repeat it.
表妹
but,
表妹 Which is also very, again, yeah. But anyway, we're talking about change, yes.
Exactly.
Not pickup lines. Even though, okay, so this is going to be a bit embarrassing for me, but what is this noise?
Must be cicadas, probably. Or
Cicadas.
some other kind of bugs.
When I went to Loyang, there was cooking cicadas.
Oh, have you tried it?
No, but a friend of mine did.
Before I moved to Hong Kong, I never knew what cicada was. And there was one morning, I was sleeping, and it was probably like 5 a.m. or something, and I heard this sound that they were making, and it was very regular. So it would go for like 10 seconds, and then it would stop, and then exactly a minute later or something like that would go again, and then it would stop. And I was so puzzled. I had to get out of the bed, and I went to the balcony, and I saw that there was one in a balcony, just kind of flipped on its back, not knowing what to do. And I never seen cicada, so I was quite scared. Like, I don't know, is it like, does it bite? Is it poisonous or something? And my dog was with me, just behind me. So it's like I slowly opened the balcony, trying to get closer, and I turned my head, and the dog is gone. And I was like, dude, he was supposed to be here to protect me, and he ran away. Like, he ran away and hid under the sofa. I was like, okay, I'm here by myself. What do I do? So eventually, I just took like a piece of paper and lifted up and threw it out the balcony for it to fly.
I think what I'm gonna do, I'm
you
gonna
gonna do?
take this noise and put it under the entire podcast.
It's a nice calming background noise.
I think so. Cicadas, my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking about change and something very embarrassing that, not embarrassing, is, I guess it's part of life.
It's only embarrassing if you feel embarrassed.
It's, okay,
Right?
I rarely feel embarrassed, I guess. But it's a bit, I guess, personal, but. So, I never knew how to deal with other people. Like, I always felt like, why should you say good morning? What you done during the weekend? You know, it's not very like, you know, why would you? I don't care. Like,
Why
I
not?
never. I just don't. I don't know. Like, I find it so odd. So then I sort of like. So what I did, I bought books on how to make small talks. So I learned how to make small talks, but the book that I think that really sort of like opened me to, I guess changed me, is The Game by Neil Strauss.
Okay, I haven't heard of that.
It's a book about pickup artists, PUAs.
Yeah.
You can go on Reddit and there's sort of like plenty of them. And basically, this guy was a Rolling Stone journalist when at the time when Rolling Stone was a good publication, and he heard about these underground culture, where there was these people whose sole sort of like goal in life was to get girls.
Okay.
And what they did, they built sort of like an engineering way of things that you would say, way that you dress,
Boop, boop, boop.
way that you dress, things that you would do that, for some reasons, always worked.
Really? So
Yeah.
they did like an old school of trial and error type of exercise where you try different things and then see what works and what doesn't.
Correct.
A/B testing.
Yeah, and then they saw like themes around it,
Right.
like how this works, and because I was always terrible at that, I was like, well, I might as well learn about it at least, and that's how I met my wife.
That is awesome.
It was
Really good.
it was quite fun, like, but is
So can you learn from that book not just how to pick up girls, but also how to just interact
it is
with people? The small talk.
it is small talk, but it's mostly about like, it's a bit embarrassing because there is a lot of like, I guess you would call it social engineering.
Okay.
Like things that you would do that will elicit a specific reaction or emotion. Naturally, like it's subconscious that do
Yeah.
that. And the one thing that is a classic one is negging. Negging in English means like giving you a compliment that is not a compliment.
Okay. Do you have an example of that?
Yes. So, congratulations, I didn't think you were getting that promotion.
Okay.
Or you look good for your age.
So why does it work?
Or I like your outfit, you're so brave.
I like these.
I can go on and on, I got hundreds.
Okay, so then explain to me.
So basically,
why does it work?
So because for some reasons, as soon as somebody says that, you feel like these two opposite emotions together, and you feel like you owe something to this person, but also like you're sort of like, because of the negative side, you're also compelled to prove them wrong. So they start to talk to you. Or they start to sort of like to have the kind of like they all of a sudden something's written in your brain that you sort of like you exist in the universe. And by the way, sometimes people do it like without even thinking that that's a social engineering. Like I remember when I was here and I was like having a call, and I was speaking Chinese because the other people were Chinese. And then the colleague told another colleague, I said like, what do you think is Daniele's Chinese is? And she said, oh, it's very courageous. But she was not English, so she was trying to say like a positive thing.
Yeah.
But to me, I was
sure
like,
she meant a positive.
well, yeah, but to me, I was like, wait a second, are you nagging me? And I actually became quite good friend with the person. And I was like, it's so odd. You just simply like, there are so many of those.
Yeah.
Another thing is, again, you can take it like to the extremes. Like, apparently, if you go around with a thread of cloth, okay, and you find a girl that is attractive, and you go there and you take off the thread of cloth from her, you pretend to take it off, and you say, you got something here, and you throw it away. All of a sudden, she feels like super grateful.
There's a bug on your shoulder.
Yes, exactly. Now I'm like, oh, thank you. Yeah, we have a deeper bond that I didn't know we had because you care about me. And another one
that is fascinating.
Another one. This is sort of again. It depends on what your motives are, I guess. But another classic one is that if you meet somebody that is for the first time, if you take a selfie together. Just maybe you meet somebody in a bar, you say like, you talk a bit, you say like, look, can I take a selfie because, I don't know, whatever, I want to show that I'm out or something like that. And then you show the selfie. Because the person sees the two faces together in a photo, sort of like it builds a historical connection that was not there in the brain.
Yeah.
So you feel more comfortable with that person.
It creates a bond of a visual image of you two together in a particular location, which I guess you associated it as being friends or something. You're like,
Correct.
you know this person because you have selfies together.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, it seems like, yes, a childhood friend, like it goes in your
Yeah.
mind, it starts to shape a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you only are in photos with people that you know well.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Another one, and then I stop. Another classic one is that is either asking, what's your favorite holiday? Or what's the best holiday that you had?
Yeah.
And simply by telling something positive that happened to you to a person, it makes that person part of the memory. And then is more likely to create like the bond that you can continue. But and again, it works 100% of the time. Like it's unbelievable.
That is 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And I live with the ultimate pickup lines that works all the time, all the time. For any one of you who are singles, or if you want to mess with your friends, ask this question: who lies the most, men or women?
So you approach a person you don't know and you ask that question,
Look,
and then starts a conversation.
yeah, my friend always say like, oh, that's not true. And I do it in front of them. Could be a waitress, could be a person in the bar, could be a man. They always stop and they give an answer. Everyone.
So it's one of the questions that really hook people.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what your gender is or
Yeah, you can.
your background.
Yeah. And
Fascinating. It's very dirty over there. Watch out.
yeah. Josan.
Joe-san.
Josan. And again, if you go on, sometimes I just I go on Reddit or sort of like again, what I told you sort of like is something that is relatively, how can I say, plain vanilla. It's not that harmful, but if you consistently do this and sort of like you add like things that you order restaurants, there are specific things that if you order, if you are at home and you cook at home, they elicit different kind of emotion and things subconsciously, and
Like,
they work
what would
well.
they call aphrodisiacs, right?
Well, it's not an aphrodisiac. It's sort of like I guess it's sort of like it's going to your subconscious in some way. Again, apparently, if you're at home with, again, suppose you invite somebody over. Of course, you're single because both of us, we are out of the game now. But if
Happily married?
if you're single and you invite somebody over, if you make pomegranate with yogurt and you prepare it from scratch, it's not a difficult dish to do. You just need to open a pomegranate, take out the things. It creates sort of like I guess aphrodisiac, but sort of like is very like an emotional and sensual, and I guess is a messy kind of thing. And the taste is very like is odd because it's got the, and apparently it works. Maybe if you
can make it for your wife as well. You don't have to. You can make it for your wife too.
You can make it for your wife too. Well, yes, if you, of course.
Why not?
You can. I did it many times. Anyway, change.
Yeah, change. Okay. On that, let's change the topic.
Let's change the topic. Excellent.
But I think maybe only slightly changing.
Yes.
I am not very good with small talk.
Yes.
And it would be very interesting for me to learn some techniques
Yes.
of how to do the small talk. So there was one book that you mentioned that's to do more with like pickup lines.
Yes.
What are the other books that you read about small talk?
So there are two. Because when I got diagnosed with autism, then I understand why I don't like small talk, because I don't have a lot of empathy. So then, sort of like they said, they was like at the end of these sort of like of these medical books, there was also like some advice on what to do and how to do it. And one thing is learning etiquette. Like if you take a book about etiquette,
Okay.
it gives you specific, like it's very rule based, like what you should say, what you should do. Like you cannot say good morning after 12 o'clock. That's an etiquette rule.
Yeah.
But it
How
goes,
does it help with small talk?
No, but like it starts to build the routine. Like in the morning, you need to say this. In the afternoon, you can say this. On Monday, say how your weekend went.
Yeah.
On Thursday, you can start to ask, what are your plans
What
for the
are
weekend?
plans? Okay.
Even though as much as I like the people that I work with, I mean, like,
So
are you really interested?
So you have this standard list of questions
Yeah.
that you can use on different days just to have that small talk, small
Yeah.
conversation.
Basically, my life is all like a list of, I have a bank of questions. Who likes the most, men or women? In case you're out. In case you're in the office on Mondays. How was the weekend? And again, it helps me.
Yeah.
But you can just I don't know, British, any book about etiquette. It gives you sort of like the kind of like that background of how to behave and what to do. And it helps because, I guess talking about change, as we discussed before, like if you have a framework and the change is controlled, and you have the little rules on how to behave in different parts of this change, it is helpful. Like,
Runners behind you.
think about,
Morning.
morning, think about you go to a Michelin star restaurant, like a fancy one with silverware. If you know what to do with all the different cutleries and wine glasses, it takes away the anxiety.
Oh, I have a lot of anxiety about that because I never know what to do.
So I learned that.
Nice.
And it's actually super easy.
Yeah.
You start from the
outside?
left, from the outside, inside.
Okay.
The only thing that I don't get is why the red wine is bigger, the wine glass is both smaller. Then you can go like but sort of like this is an example of how sort of can help sort of like dealing with change, because you have all these little rules that keep you on path.
So you're feeling comfortable in the surroundings and you don't have to second guess and question what is the right thing to do.
Correct.
You're not worried about looking like an idiot because you know what the etiquette is. So
Yeah.
then you can focus your attention on having a conversation.
Yeah, and I guess it's, at the end of the day, etiquette is all of these we're talking about is social rules. Like, we know that we shouldn't, raise our voice in certain situations.
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine, but you can then maybe, again, you shouldn't wear black shoes with brown belts.
Yeah.
Or no brown in town, you shouldn't wear a brown suit
Yeah.
if you're a lawyer.
Some things just go or don't go together, or
Well-
accepted or not accepted.
So basically, at the end, it's all like very functional.
Yeah.
So it's not like sometimes we talk about etiquette as these like elaborate sort of like rituals. They are sometimes. Because why would you have a different a different spoon for a tiramisu and a coffee? Like, yeah, of course
I
you can
usually
make it
use the
different.
same. So.
Exactly, but technically you should have a different one
Yeah.
for each of the various courses. And it just helps knowing that. Sorry, it's just about social customs. I guess the small talk is about if you follow these rules, you're gonna get accepted.
Yeah.
You will belong in
One-
that group of people.
One of the group. Yeah, I had an interesting experience when I moved to UK, and I was drinking my coffee, and I used the same spoon that I stirred the coffee to eat cake. So I had like a little slice of cake on the side.
Oh, big no-no.
And my friends were like really laughing at me. I was like, what's wrong? I was like, oh, you're supposed to use a fork
Yes.
for your cake? I was like, what does it matter? Like, I have this thing in my hand already, and I can easily scoop up what I want to scoop up. Why do you need a fork? And they were like, no, oh, it's so funny. Oh, Saul, you're so funny eating with a spoon, with a little spoon. I'm like, what's wrong with that? That's how I ate my entire life.
Well,
So,
it's all like social norms are awesome.
Yeah.
Some of them are like very silly, I guess. But
Yeah.
I guess it's all about like dealing with change is difficult because sometimes you have a framework on how to deal with change. Social life, the low-level social life helps, but honestly, with personal life and with personal emotion, we're not taught that.
I know it's not easy, and it's not just the social norms. It's also how we have gotten used to doing certain things. I'm looking around, by the way, just to see if there's going to be any places to stop and pause for a second, because I think we're 1 hour in, or roughly 1 hour into the conversation, so we could...
What's the right? Well, technically, we bought Snickers bar.
Yes.
You're supposed to eat them with fork and knife.
Okay, why?
Well, that's how the Queen does it.
The Queen eats Snickers.
In the book of etiquette,
The Queen eats Snickers.
if she was to eat these Snickers, you would have to eat it with fork and knives.
I think I'm more of a pleb, a peasant.
That's
I don't think I would go as far as using my silver fork and a silver knife to cut a slice of Snickers and then pick it up, put it in my mouth.
me neither. But these are the things that I learned. Sort of like it's in my memory bank somehow,
Yeah.
and now they're stuck there. It's information I don't know what to do with.
How do you not forget stuff? I find it that whenever I'm learning some new things, I often tend to forget the things that I used to know because the capacity of my brain is limited. So, like computer hard drive, you need to erase something to put something else in.
I think because mine goes into the cloud.
You upload it to the cloud.
No,
okay.
but honestly, like this is good. So, okay, another useless information I just reminded of. Mnemonics.
What is mnemonics?
That is the skill of remembering things.
Uh-huh.
And this guy wrote a book, but this guy was fascinated by all those people that had, that you can show them, like a list of 150 cards. And those people could remember the exact sequence of those cards.
Right, like the memory champions, right?
Correct, or a list of numbers.
Yeah.
And this guy's a journalist, and they say like, okay, how can it be? Like, let me go and try to write a book, He became the champion.
I think I read that book.
Yeah.
I think I read it.
Yeah, and because it's just rules that, is this something that you can learn? I'm what's the other guy?
So what you're doing is you're connecting it to an existing memory or an existing sequence. So if you're very familiar with a path that you take to work every day, you want to learn something, you mentally hook things at different places, right? And you have that sequence. Monkey! There's going to be a few of those, I think. I don't know whether they're friendly or not so much. Grip your camera tight. You don't want it to jump up and steal your camera and then trade for bananas. I don't have any bananas. I don't know if monkeys eat any Snickers, to be honest. So.
They definitely will. You know what, they're like dogs that are supposed to eat chocolate.
Yeah.
Anyway, first monkey in Hong Kong. Is it a baboon? Huh?
I don't know. I think these are the ones that have like red butts or some.
So it is a baboon.
Red. Maybe. There's loads of them in certain parts of Hong Kong.
Monkey.
You know the hike that we did last time? I saw some on that hike the previous time that I climbed. But when me and you did it, they were not there. They were hiding.
Interesting. What were we talking about?
We were talking about
mnemonics, yeah. So, and Matteo Ricci was a Jesuit, the 16th, 17th century. That worked in that traveled through China. He spent time with the emperor there. Sort of like he was like one of those like interesting people. And he wrote a couple of books about mnemonics. And there is this concept of the palace. You need to build in your mind, and this is what also the cars work in the same way. You basically build a physical space in your mind. And if you want to remember something, you put that thing in that place. Because effectively, you know where you put your shirt. Because you put it in the drawer. You can do the same things with memories. I like that. Let me put it in this drawer in my mind. I was not able to build a memory palace, but that's how it works.
Fascinating. I think with that, we'll probably take a break.
Yes.
There's a little stopping place. We're gonna eat our Snickers with our hands like animals and not like the Queen. And then we're gonna come back in part 2.
Excellent.
See you later.
See you later. Okay. I have a very, very stupid fact. You must have read this, that in your lifetime, you will eat 5 spiders during sleep.
I heard that.
You heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, this fact was created by scientists, by researcher, who wanted to prove that you can put out fake research and people will believe in it because it sounds crazy.
And it worked.
It worked. However, people now think that it's true. So it works too well. And nobody believes this guy. It's like, no, this paper is fake. That's why I did it. It's written there. It was like how to trick people to research. Like that was the title of the paper.
Why do you think it worked that well? Is it because it's such a crazy fact?
Because people have got, like, it's such a crazy fact, but also like because you sleep with the mouth open.
That's why I use the tape. Tape to close my mouth. It's not for breathing, it's for preventing spiders climbing into my mouth.
Just done. No. And well, that's a very good thing, but it's so odd.
But you know, they can climb in through the nose then if your mouth is shut.
Well, it is a small spider. By the way, spiders, I think I get bitten more by spiders than mosquitoes. Like my dad, for some reason, scorpions and spiders is good for him. Like,
do you have scorpions and spiders in Italy?
We do have I do have scorpions, but they're very small ones.
Tiny.
And but they're nasty. It's not like they're painful. They're not like venomous.
You don't need to amputate the leg or anything like that.
No. They are very relatively harmless, but they are. But technically, okay, we talk about change, but now I got another like statement that drives me nuts. Okay, you go on Wikipedia. You start to look, as you do, all the various families of animals.
Yeah.
Okay, cariotas, mammas, and whatnot.
I've never done that, but as you do.
I do that quite often. You'll be surprised how many times I go and say like, oh, let's see this animal, if it is related to this one.
Okay.
So first of all, seals are related to dogs because they're literally in the same category, like they're very down.
Same branch of evolutionary.
You know, but literally like they're in the same, like, I don't know, like you just go a step up and they're in the same family. I don't know if family is the right word, but it's the same like genus or whatever that is. And it's like, of course, look at the
seals and mammals,
look at the face of a dog.
They do have a face of a dog.
Once you notice that, anyway, I was doing this because, yes. So, okay, scorpions, cockroaches and whatnot, and sorry, not cockroaches, like the animals with the strong like cover.
Outer shell?
Outer shell. They are the same family as lobsters. And then you find out,
because
of course,
of the outer shell.
They have the shell. They have the.
What do you call them? The vertebrates.
The paws.
Right.
The things that.
Claws.
Claws.
Yeah.
Scorpions have claws, and it's like I cannot eat a lobster anymore. I'm not gonna eat a scorpion. Maybe if the scorpion is as delicious as a lobster.
Well, maybe some people have tried. You never know.
Oh well, I'm sure they do. But once that's why sometimes knowledge is actually more harmful to you than not having it.
You know, in Hong Kong, they have these crabs where one claw is tiny,
Yep.
and then another one is like massive.
Yes.
I think the left one is always the big claw.
Yes.
So apparently that's an evolutionary outcome of them fighting each other.
Okay.
So whichever ones had like one stronger claw, they tend to win the battles.
Okay.
And then it evolved in a sense where one claw was getting bigger and bigger, and another one was getting smaller and smaller because they always fight with one claw. And that made them to be so asymmetric.
Asymmetric, that's interesting. That's fascinating. And did you know there are some crabs, they're called blue crabs, I think, that they can lose a claw and it regrows.
Like a gecko can lose a tail?
Like lizard can lose a tail and regrow it. That's why when I was little.
That's a superpower.
That's
right?
quite a superpower.
You can regrow your
Few-
limbs.
And apparently it's got to do with if you're a particular. It works also in your body. Like if you got animals, if that particular organ is made up with staminal cells, then it regrows, and you got other that are not staminal, and they just don't grow.
So you know, there's a lot of research in stem cells, and
Yeah.
they try to cure diseases and
Oh yeah.
get people to regenerate organs by ingesting stem cells into those damaged tissues. I don't know much about it, but it seems fascinating.
I don't know either, but I'm on a binge of Dr. House. Been watching all the TV show.
Is Dr. House representative of the actual medical?
No, I've
thing?
been.
No.
There are some Reddit like posts and videos on YouTube that explain each episode how silly
Right.
all the thing is, because of course they just have like it's a
to make
TV
it
show, so
interesting.
they need to make it more need to make it sound correct.
Yeah.
But actually, it's like saying, I don't know, the tree is a birch. Oh yes, it is a birch. Like, yeah, of course. I mean, like, what else would it be? Like, sometimes they just have the usual like, how can I say? There are some reactions that are quite. It would be very uncommon to have all of those weird cases in that hospital. You would just move away from Jersey.
Yeah, it's a
Because-
strange hospital.
Yes.
Or it can be the opposite, you know, some hospitals perhaps specialize in weird cases.
But there's also two connected to these. Another useless facts that is in my memory bank. They did a study where in the US there is a massive heart surgeon conference. And the researchers, they wanted to test if when there is this conference, do we have more deaths out of heart surgeries?
Oh, because everyone's away.
Because everyone is away at this conference, because like thousands of heart surgeons from all the corners of the
Yeah.
US go there.
So what did they find?
That there are less deaths, fewer deaths.
Because there's less heart surgery mistakes being
No.
made. No?
Because if you're a heart surgeon and you have a heart problem, what do?
You operate on heart.
Correct. Even though you can also find other ways to fix it.
Uh-huh.
It's like the classic problem of if you have a hammer, everything you see is a nail.
Yeah.
So and there is also like some what's the name? You can cure, you can cope or sort of like many different heart conditions with non-invasive things.
Yeah.
Might not be as 100%, accurate, but is far less risky.
Yeah.
So there is less likely to have deaths.
Yeah.
Anyhow, talking about risk and uncertainty. So we were having a sneaker bar without a knife and fork.
Savage.
Really, plebs. We are nonsense. So what do you think people get wrong when they think about uncertainty and risk?
I think they mix up those two concepts, and that's creating more issues than there needs to be. So when someone talks about uncertainty, people immediately think, well, I don't know what's going to happen, hence there's a lot of risk associated to it because anything can happen. But that's not true, because risk can be managed even if you cannot reduce the level of uncertainty. And the way you do it is by exploring different scenarios. So say, maybe uncertainty is the stock market can go up or the stock market can go down. And it would be risky if you don't do anything. But if you look at those two scenarios and then you create a plan of how you would act, or you adjust your portfolio in a way that would have a minimal downside in each of the outcomes, you didn't reduce the uncertainty, you didn't gain any knowledge, but you reduced your risk massively because you know that you're not going to suffer whatever happens.
Sorry, let me play back to you. So, in this case, uncertainty is whether it goes up and down.
Yeah.
And the risk is whether you, like the amount that you invested in it?
It can be anything. So it's how much you would lose or gain from being in the market or out of the market in those kind of scenarios. So the risk is in the eye of the beholder. You are the one that is risking something. You can eliminate your risks to say, you don't know what's going to happen, it's going to go up or down. You can completely exit the market and sit on the sideline. You minimize your risk in a sense that you're not going to lose anything, although you may forgo some, opportunity costs. So maybe it's going up, you miss out on a big rally or something. But risk can be managed even if you cannot manage uncertainty, or you cannot gain more knowledge about what is going to happen. That's the point.
So uncertainty is a fact, risk is subjective.
Yes, exactly. It's like, you remember we were talking about Immanuel Kant and objective subjective.
Yes.
So uncertainty is more of the objective thing.
Yes.
You can do certain things to gain a little bit more knowledge, to figure out what is more likely to happen, which is reducing the level of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to know for sure unless it's such an established process that repeated so many times and always came out in the same way.
So
But risk you can manage, but it is subjective.
Of course. So then, sort of like if you think about the way that we deal with change as human beings, sort of like uncertainty exists, full stop.
Yes.
There is nothing that really we can do about it. We can only do the way that we perceive it or interpret it or process it. One. And once we do that, we can then build, I guess, risk management tools, or coping mechanism. I guess if you're talking about the sneakers with the knife and fork, if you go to a very nice restaurant, the uncertainty is that you don't know necessarily, suppose the banquet, you don't know what they're going to serve. And there is nothing that you can do about it, but you can deal with that by learning if a spoon is for a tiramisu or for a coffee, so that you know how to deal with that.
Yeah, I'd still use it for both, unless someone's under so much social pressure.
Yeah, technically,
I like to be a rebel sometimes. Eat my cake with a spoon.
And you're right about it. Cake is fork, tiramisu and probably pudding is spoon. And the fork is also different.
It is different. It's smaller and it's more curved, right?
Yeah, it's got it's larger at the bottom to scoop it up. Anyway,
yeah.
We are now digressing on useless facts about life.
As we like to do, and it's a lot of fun. Let me give you another example.
Yep.
Hiking, right?
Yes.
So we were talking earlier in the week. We were thinking that it's going to rain.
Yep.
And there was some uncertainty of whether it's going to rain or whether it's going to be sunny. We checked the weather forecast. It seemed like 50-50, can be either.
Yep.
So we haven't reduced our uncertainty. But the risk is, if it rains, we're going to get wet, you know, it might be slippery, we might not get as good of a view from the camera and those kind of things. But we can manage that risk by, okay, taking an umbrella or some kind of water protective gear.
Yep.
Wear different shoes that are not so slippery in the wet. So we eliminated all of the worst things that can happen, regardless of what the weather is like. And it's, you know, the sky is not clear, but it's not raining. But that uncertainty didn't interfere with what we were going to do.
And yes, and the risk management tools in that case would be that this morning I woke up, I still woke up at the same time
Yeah.
to go for a hike regardless. And second, I dressed up for all weather. Well, I was not to go for a hike, because if I were dressed up like as we were planning to go, maybe just go in a coffee place and have a coffee sitting down.
And then you would be very uncomfortable now.
Well, it would have been worse to dress up in a nice outfit and then have to go on a hike than to dress to go on a hike and then go in a coffee
Exactly.
place. Is more fungible,
Exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I'm talking about change, it's been very fascinating, because I really struggle with change. Like it drives me nuts. Anytime there is like a big uncertainty that I guess that is not common, as we discussed, where I don't have the rules to deal with that, but especially if it is something that is emotionally connected. I really struggle with it. Because we are talking about change in a very how can I say, in a relatively aseptic way, sort of like we are sort of like looking at it like from a scientist point of view, I guess. But if some changes happens to you, it's not that easy.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So you're saying change is hard to deal with. I would separate into two types of change.
Yep.
One is the change that is being forced upon us
Yes.
by the surroundings.
Yep.
So it can be, you know, another person or your organization or the world or whatever. And then another type of change is the change that you initiate. You want to change, as we were talking in the first part of the conversation.
Gotcha.
You want to change yourself, and then you take actions to achieve that. So do you struggle with both types of change, or only the one that's kind of forced by the outside?
I think both, but the person I want to a lesser extent. But suppose, actually, we were discussing about it before. Suppose you get, your job gets redundant. And you need to sort of like you get a package, and if you're lucky, and then sort of like you need to find a new job. I think even though you can sort of like look at it from a scientific way as we've done it, like saying, yes, it is outside your control, is 99% of the time not a personal decision, it is a business or sort of like corporate decision to do that. You knew that this was going to happen possibly one day by simply entering a contract with the company. But still, it's very, very hard to cope with it, because emotionally you start to think about your self-worth. You start to doubt yourself, like, what mistakes I made. And I think it's that when there are sort of like these big changes is when you start sort of like to lose perspective, and you just sort of like it's not objective anymore. It's sort of like it's just point of view.
I think it comes down to each individual of how they would deal with it. And if I think about myself, and we're just looking at some nice views right now. If I think about myself, and how I would deal with it, it's different how I would deal with it today versus, say, 10 years ago. And the reason for that is because I'm more prepared financially to go through that type of change. So in the past, if I was to be made redundant, I would be like, well, I can pay rent for 1 or 2 months and then that's it. I'm screwed. I'm on a street, have nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas now I know that I have sufficient financial cushion for me to sustain the living that I have for an extended period of time, so I don't have to worry about jumping into whatever the first job comes up. I would be able to spend some time to look around and to find something that makes sense from my career perspective, and I could continue developing.
I guess, but wouldn't you? I get it. It makes sense. But if it happened to me, I would definitely go through like a bit of soul searching. Like, not necessarily because that happens, but because it's like it's such a big sort of like to some extent it's a traumatic change sometimes.
Yeah.
And I would probably sort of like, as I say, like right now I can maybe think about in those terms, but I think if it happens, my mind will start to sort of like to think in a slightly different way.
As in, like, what did you do wrong?
Not necessarily. It's like, okay, it's clear that I've done something and I failed it. No, regardless of what it is,
Yeah.
you can say like, it's not my problem, it's not my fault, but effectively, from a society point of view, I failed, something. And for sure, it will really make me ask, like, am I doing the right career? But at the same time, you can maybe think about it as an opportunity, like maybe it's an opportunity to look at something different. Like, again, it never happened to me. Finger crossed, touch wood on iron, depending on the culture that you're in. Let me touch wood, you never know. But it's, but I'm sure that I will definitely be upset. I will go through the 5 stages of grief in a variable amount of time.
Well, you mentioned an interesting thing, which is an opportunity, right? So I can't remember who said it, but they said, don't ever waste a good crisis.
Yeah?
Meaning that there's always an opportunity in change. If something is happening, whether it's a global financial crisis or whatever it is, there's an opportunity to do something better. Whether that's to clean out all the inefficiencies and then start from a new baseline and build something that's a little bit more stable than what you had before. Or on a personal side, maybe changing career, as you said, going into a different industry, doing something that's a little bit more meaningful for you as an individual. So it's trying to find that opportunity and seeing where it leads to.
That's very hopeful. Actually, I got inspired. To make sense. Maybe
You're welcome. That will be $5.
Thank you. Maybe in this good note, it's time to wrap it up then.
Yeah, we can do.
Change is good. It's a good opportunity. Change is good. It can lead to opportunity.
Change presents opportunities, I guess. Yeah. Don't waste a good crisis.
Don't waste a good crisis. Yes, it is emotional. And go around and ask who lies the most, men or women.
Yeah, manage your risk.
Manage your risk as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
So if you have enjoyed this delightful descent into chaos, follow me, Daniele and Saul, on LinkedIn. Our newsletters blend quirky hot takes with novel deep dives into banking, data, social science, and life. Resistance is futile. Join the cult.